Hello, this is Group Three's group project for Film 440. We are doing Mulholland Drive by David Lynch. The group members are Ali Gubbins, me, Liam Kratol, and Nicholas Kratol. A little overview of the film Mulholland Drive. Mulholland Drive is a mystery surrealist thriller written and directed by David Lynch. The film came out in 2001 and has been a cult classic ever since. In classic David Lynch style, he takes the audience on a mesmerizing and dreamlike journey through a story about the harsh reality of one's own unrealistic expectations, love, loss, heartbreak, and depression. In the film Mulholland Drive, director David Lynch takes the widely known concept of the Hollywood dream and distorts it, explaining through symbolism and subtlety with the various ways those with the dreams and aspirations of making it big will only be pushed down and squashed beneath the big boot that is the Hollywood elite and their own expectations. Moving on to the narrative of Mulholland Drive, it's an immensely deep and most likely confusing for the first time watching film to understand and get a grasp on. There are many layers, not just to the main character, but for each character seen within each of the scenes. The main characters in the film are Diane Selwyn, or otherwise known as Betty in the film, Camilla Rhodes, who's sometimes known as Rita, and Adam Kesher, the assassin or the hitman, and Mr. Hollywood. Diane being the main character, the bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, aspiring actress that wants to make it big in Hollywood. Camilla is a successful actress that Diane ultimately is both jealous and in love with. Adam is the director of the movie that both Camilla and Diane wanted a part of. The assassin is a hitman hired by Diane to kill Camilla. And finally, Mr. Hollywood is a character that represents the whole of the Hollywood elite who can pick and choose who gets the roles in each of the films. The film's narrative can also be broken down into different tiers or layers. The entire film, most notably, can be broken down by the term verisimilitude. This is a word to describe when something, most likely in a film, gives the convincing illusion of reality when in reality it's not. The different states of being that this film possesses makes the concept of verisimilitude just that much more important. The audience is constantly having to question whether or not what they're seeing is true reality or not. In this case, fiction, sort of dreamland. There is the surface level explanation of the narrative, which would be something like girl with big dreams goes to Hollywood, faces the reality versus what she dreamt it would be, and has to deal with the consequences of her own mind turning against her. The deeper level this can enter would be something like girl who can't take the mental anguish bearing down on her from her own mind, made from the mistakes she's made, creates a fantasy in her head based on what she wanted out of life, trying to gain any semblance of control back. This ultimately leads to her becoming mentally and physically exhausted and taking her own life. Finally, we have the deepest level, which is where the film can be broken down into more or less two parts. There is the first act of the film, which we will refer to as the dream timeline or dream state. Before we get to see Diane, or in this timeline, she's known as Betty, we are shown a failed assassination attempt on Rita, where she ends up at Betty's aunt's house. After that, we have a scene of a man explaining how he has nightmares of a monster behind the dumpster in the back, which we are shown at the end of the scene. Then we are shown when she gets to Hollywood and is congratulated for following her dreams and is given false hope by an elderly couple she met on the plane. Immediately finds a love interest and nails the part of the big audition. Overall, has a great time up until the parts where her dream world and the real world collide. Some examples of this would be when she finds the dead and decaying version of herself when going to Diane's house in this sort of dream state. They then go to a club named Club Silencio, where they see a performance where they both start crying intensely. This then leads to the dream state of hers collapsing and leaving her in the real world alone with the truth and where reality really starts to set in. This leads into Act 2, or what we will refer to as the reality timeline. This is where the act of creating a fake universe to get out of facing reality comes back to really hurt Diane. When woken up by her neighbor mentions that she hasn't been around in around 3 weeks. All while we see a blue key sitting on the table. Remember this, it's going to be important coming up. She then sits down on the couch, and this is where the audience is given a taste of what has actually happened since arriving in Hollywood. She has 2 flashbacks. One that refers to a time when Camilla said that they need to stop seeing each other, then another to when Camilla and Adam are kissing on set while she is forced to wash. It then cuts back to her on the couch where she is crying and touching herself while her vision fades in and out. This then leads into 2 more flashback scenes. One being when she was at dinner with Camilla and Adam, where they're about to announce that they are going to get married, before just then the flashback cuts to another, being a memory of sitting at the same diner that the garbage monster was first seen at, where she's ordering the hit on Camilla. This scene is very important because the hitman explains how when the job is done, there will be a blue key in the place he told her. This then makes the audience think back to the current reality where we saw her sitting on the couch with the blue key sitting right in front of her. She asks the hitman what the key opens, and he just laughs at her. The final scenes is where she's sitting on the couch, a miniature version of the old couple from when she first got to Hollywood in her dream state, comes from under the door with laughing and screaming getting louder. They then chase Diane into her room as she's screaming, where she grabs a gun from her nightstand and shoots herself in the head. The final shot is portrayed of a montage of the LA skyline with her and Camilla laughing and smiling.
So the cinematography in Mulholland Drive is what allows the audience to witness the colliding worlds of the conscious and the subconscious. And this is done through many clever filming techniques. To point out a few on the left-hand side, upper left of this image panel, this is after Rita's car crash. She's found in Betty's aunt's apartment, and she doesn't quite know who she is. So the world around her is almost telling her who she is. She sees this poster of Rita Hayworth, and that's where she gets the name Rita from. So it's just a way of telling us that this world is suggesting who these characters are, and that it's almost, built as it goes, and nothing is really solid and solid in foundation as far as what's going to happen or what has happened. Fade in shots are also commonly used to show the confusion and the duality of whenever this dreamlike state is turning in on itself and almost exposing it as a false reality of what's truly happening. Very early on, the shots of Betty that we see are low angle shots with bright lights. This is seen at the airport when she arrives, or at the jitterbug contest here. And these are the earliest moments we get of Betty. And it's very interesting to see these types of shots used because, normally they're used much later in a film to give the character sort of the recognition of accomplishing a goal. They have to earn it in a way to have this view of them for the audience. But we see this immediately with Betty, which leads us to believe that we should trust her and that she is so confident in herself that this is just how she presents to everyone around her, first impression or not. So a lot of these earlier shots build a false sense of reality and accomplishment and fulfillment for this character that truthfully at the time we don't know anything about. And then as the film progresses, darker tones are used and lonelier shots are conveyed. We see a lot of, um, an empty frame. Before it was always somebody having dialogue or an event happening, but now it's much more quieter and much more lonely, like you see in these shots here. Top one is of Club Silencio, and the bottom is of Diane's death. Now, the Club Silencio scene is extremely important, looking at it through the lens of cinematography, because it's the true shift in the character and the setting and the tone of the movie. Darker colors are used. There's shadows now, and lights are not there anymore. And it really just shows the shift in feeling that we are supposed to witness. And the actual production within Club Silencio itself personifies the feelings that we're supposed to have for, Betty, where her reality is now unraveling. The message plays, this is all pre-recorded. It's an illusion, as if it's almost begging her to wake up from this dream. And we only know this because of how the shots are framed, because of the colors used and the angles, and the um, what the frame decides is important for us to view. And that's just a couple things about the cinematography in Mulholland Drive.
Mise-en-scene describes the elements in the frame, such as costuming, design, lights, and color. Mulholland Drive is easily one of the most fascinating films, simply due to the fact that the majority of the movie takes place inside Diane's head while she's dreaming. At the beginning of the film, we see a point of view shot of Diane falling into a pillow, symbolizing that she is beginning to dream. Scenes with Betty are often portrayed during the daytime, where the locations, music, and outfits all cater to us believing she is the star of the show. While scenes shown in the reality state are often much darker, feel cluttered, and are more chaotic. This instills a sense of doubt with the world Betty is trying to create. Mise-en-scene can be shown by having the setting of the scene set the tone for how we should feel watching what is occurring. Dark tones can reflect uncertainty and dread, like the ones from Club Silencio, while the brighter and more open locations like Winky's Diner creates the feeling of optimism for the characters. There is also a contrast between cool tones and warmer tones in the picture shown on this slide. The cooler, blue tones represent uncertainty and confusion, which is often what the characters are feeling during these scenes. The warmer tones represent lighter, less dreary scenes. The colors are often used to separate different moods in each scene. Throughout the film, there are different signs that Diane is dreaming, such as the characters acting unnaturally, as if they're pretending to act in a movie. It is later revealed that Diane repurposes characters to play a part of her dream, confirming to the audience that everything they have been seeing was not reality. This aspect of the film makes it unique compared to other films, considering it takes place in the dream world, reality, and the subconscious. The acting plays a key role in understanding how we're supposed to feel about these characters, and whether or not we are believing what to see. To help drive the point home, the makeup and costuming plays a massive role in expressing each of the characters' personalities. Diane imagines herself as Betty, who dresses in modest clothing. This represents how Diane herself wishes to be more innocent with more pure intentions. She regrets her decisions and wishes she can actually be Betty. On the other hand, Diane imagines Camila as Rita, who comes to Diane confused and lost. The first outfit we see her in is in an expensive dress, but later changes into a white t-shirt. This represents how she is now a blank canvas and can morph into anything Diane desires. The last scene involving Rita is her dressed exactly like Diane, blonde wig and all. This can be looked at as if Camila represented Diane in her dream, completely lost and without an identity. As the audience, we can conclude that Diane is genuinely unhappy with herself.
In summation, Mulholland Drive is an amalgamation of all these different forms of film to create an immersive and captivating experience for the viewer that takes them on a journey about the harsh reality of one's own unrealistic expectations about love, loss, heartbreak, and depression, creating a viewing experience that leaves the audience both enamored and puzzled, hungry to know more, and understand the deep complexity that is Mulholland Drive. Thank you for listening and watching.